Hello, welcome to the Nexus. Today's show, free at last. Malaysia's most famous prisoner, Anwar Ibrahim, has been released. He's now looking forward to becoming the country's next leader. How did that happen? Well, it is a complicated story full of twists and turns, so we're going to concentrate on the three main characters. Anwar is today's comeback kid, but he owes his freedom to the man who pretty much put him there in the first place, his former boss, the 92-year-old Mahathir Mohamad, who won last week's election to become the world's oldest leader. And then there's the man he defeated, the third man in this story, the now former Prime Minister Najib Razak. What happens to him now? It's a Malaysian mystery coming up right now here in the Nexus. Hello, I'm Mahathir Mohamad, and today in the Nexus, pensioners, prisoners and prime ministers, what is going on in Malaysia? Well, let's find out with Nick Amaral Faiz. He actually took a few months off to help make social media videos for the victorious opposition. Zuna, very famous in Malaysia, is a political cartoonist. He joins us from outside Anwar Ibrahim's house. And finally, Nick Nazmi. He used to be Anwar's personal assistant and is now the youth leader for his party. So now we're all together. Let's put the tape into the video and watch a classic, Malaysia's Comeback Kid.
Nexus, in association with TRT World, presents The Comeback Kid. A story of a man forced out of retirement to save the country he loves from a wave of scandals. A tale of friendship, betrayal, and redemption.
Yeah, okay, enough of that. We get the idea. Malaysian politics is the stuff of movies. And in this one, there are three main characters. The figure of Mahathir Mohamad dominates, with Malaysians affectionately calling him the father of modern Malaysia.
It's like a miracle, really, a dream come true.
Now, as Prime Minister for all of the 80s and 90s, he is credited with transforming the economy from heavily agricultural to turbocharged. F1, Petronas Towers, a new Asian tiger roared. He put Malaysia on the map. And in return, the people gave him 5 consecutive terms in office, from 81 to 2003, making him the longest-serving leader in Malaysia's modern history. But the so-called grandfather of the nation has a ruthless streak, turning on his younger protégés when it suits him. For example, sensing his deputy Anwar Ibrahim was growing too powerful, he fired him in 1998. And Anwar ended up in jail on sodomy charges.
I don't enjoy these things, you know. It is not in my nature to gloat over what happens to people.
He's also brought down 2 prime ministers, his successor, Abdullah Ahmed Badawi, and last week, Najib Razak. Seeing Najib drowning in scandal, Mahathir staged a comeback. And at 92, after 15 years in retirement, Mahathir led a coalition to take on Najib and his old party, the party that had been in power ever since the British left 60 years ago. Somehow, this one man pitched his personal credibility against the entire establishment and won. But even at his swearing-in ceremony, the world's oldest leader knew the future didn't belong to him. He had promised voters that he'd secure the release of the man they'd been waiting for years, and on Wednesday morning he kept that promise. The man he'd pushed towards prison 2 decades ago was pardoned, and he walked free.
Now, there is a new dawn for Malaysia.
And after all these years, it now looks like Anwar Ibrahim's time has finally arrived.
Well, let's go straight to the house of the comeback kid, Anwar Ibrahim, and we have the political cartoonist Zunar waiting for us. Right there in the background you have I Will Never Surrender, and he is back, isn't he, Zunar? Is Anwar Ibrahim now the most powerful man in Malaysia?
Yes, I think he is, and I believe he is the only one who can make Malaysia great again. That is why I think because he has a character, he has a charismatic leaders, and he's not corrupt, and he has a willpower to fight corruption.
Thank you,
so
Zuna.
I think because in Malaysia corruption is very, very huge. Yes.
Nick Nazmi, it seems that Zuna very firmly believes that although Anwar Ibrahim is the Prime Minister in waiting, he's still more powerful than Mahathir Mohamad because he's the future. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think they are both powerful in their own ways. I mean, I think Tun Mahathir has played a big role in this election, but definitely Anwar is definitely, played a big role as well in building the opposition over 20 years. So I think that combination has been very pivotal to the change we saw in Malaysia last week.
Do you think Mahathir Mohamad will keep his promise to step down in 2 years and allow Anwar Ibrahim to take over?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all agree that the deal was for Mahathir to be the interim prime minister, and after a while, after a certain period, he will hand over to Anwar, and I think I don't see any issue of that not being kept.
Yeah, but you know, in the past, of course, Anwar has had reason to distrust him. Mahathir Mohamad was the man who fired him and then essentially put him in jail. And when asked if he could put all that behind him, well, here's what Anwar himself had to say about that.
I have forgiven him, and he has proven his mentor. He has made sacrifices. He was maligned in the media. I tell you, it is like deja vu. But he struggled, worked indefatigably hard. Together, he has now supported the reform agenda. He has facilitated even my release. Why should I harbor any malice towards him?
Well, let's go back to Anwar's house now. Zuna, it seems that Anwar Ibrahim has genuinely forgiven Mahathir Mohamad and is willing to work with him for the good of the country.
Yeah, I think the important issues that unite both them together is for the better of. They are thinking of the nation rather than politics. So they really can forgive each other. They can be friends again because the nation, the Malaysia, need this at this moment. So they are really, I really think they are very, very sincere on this. So let's forget about the past. Let's forget about politicking. Now we move forward and bring Malaysia to the place it should be. So we are now very bad in economic, and I think by both combination and with a very sincere will to reform, then can make this country great again.
Well, let's go back to Mahathir now. It's incredible. He beat his old party, the Barisan Nasional, the BN, which had ruled Malaysia for 60 years since independence from the British. Nick, if I could come to you, Nick Amaril Faiz, he surely was the only man who could come back out of retirement and take on his old party, which had been in charge for decades, and win.
Yeah, I think he's the only man that's able to do that, because knowing him, he used to rule for Barisan Nasional for like 20 years.
Yeah.
So that's definitely the guy to beat Barisan Nasional.
What do you think it was about him that made him such a force even now?
Well, mainly it has got to do with what he has contributed to the country, as well as his influence towards the Malay community of the rural areas of Malaysia.
Well, what's interesting is he may be the world's oldest leader at 92, but unlike, say, Britain's Queen Elizabeth II, who's just 91, he's been elected and will have to run the government. Even Mahathir knows that's a bit funny.
Tomorrow, we will have a swearing-in ceremony of the Prime Minister alone. Yes, I'm still alive.
Nick Nazmi, Nick, you're in charge of the youth wing of Anwar Ibrahim's party, so it's a kind of a pertinent question for you. How do you persuade a coalition to come along with a 92-year-old man?
Well, I think the most important thing, I think, for the youth of Malaysia is to find the right combination of leaders who can lead the country and make it better for the younger generation. So if it's, it involves someone who's 92 years old, then I think we are fine with that if he's the best man for the job.
Oh, fair enough. Well, Mahathir may be 92, but he's pretty popular with the young people, and that's a really good thing, for him at least, because they actually helped him with his online election campaign. I mean, how many 92-year-olds know their way around Twitter and Instagram?
This is the most popular Facebook page in Malaysia. Tin Tumon claims to keep you pop culture by showing you all kinds of useful things. With 16.9 million followers, it is considerably more popular than the country's newly elected Prime Minister. Mahathir Mohamad has a mere 3.3 million fans. But his page is the fastest growing in the country, with 715,000 extra people following him this past month alone. Over on Twitter, a similar story. Before the election, he had just 15,000 followers. Now, more than 600,000, picking up more than 170,000 in the past 7 days. And this was his first Instagram post, which he joined just 2 months ago. Getting ready for the election, of course. That is his 91-year-old wife, by the way, he's laughing with. And this and other candid snaps have earned him more than 1 million followers so far. Very cute, of course, but there is a serious side. With 41% of the voters in the past election aged just 21 to 39, it's very important, no matter how old you are, to keep your finger on the social media pulse.
OK, well, let's go back to Nick Nazmi now, also in Kuala Lumpur. Nick, what was it like trying to persuade young voters to come towards Mahathir Mohamad and Anwar Ibrahim? Was it easy for you?
Well, I think it wasn't difficult because both of them have their strong appeals among that age group, the category you mentioned, 21 to 39. And I think ultimately it's not just about personality, but it's about policies that the opposition coalition has put on offer.
Well, let's go back to Nick. Nick Amaral Faiz, so you took 3 months off to actually make social media videos for the opposition. And we've got one of your little videos here running through. When you're trying to appeal to young Malaysians, what do you do with your videos to get to them?
Well, we mainly just focus on what Pakatan Harapan offers, mainly the manifesto that what they're offering. And we make sure that the content is delivered as what the manifesto says towards the country.
And what about the ethnic makeup of Malaysia? We know that that's quite an unusual thing for many countries. And we have a graphic here to show you. 67.4% indigenous Malay and other indigenous groups, 24.6% Chinese, 7.3% Indian. It's quite an interesting makeup, isn't it? I mean, how do you make a video that applies to everyone?
Well, our focus is mainly on the Malay community. So our message is tailored for the Malay. We do it in Bahasa Malaysia.
Yeah. And
the content is targeted that touches on the policies that involves around the ethnic Malays.
Zuno, if I could come to you, how important was the ethnic makeup of the country to this election?
Yeah, I think this is the first time when every race come together. And the previous election, they are all have a separate agenda and a separate time. I mean, there are an election where only Malays come out and Chinese keep quiet. And there are also election previously where Chinese only very strong wants to change, but the Malay and Indian keep quiet. But for this time, this is the only time when 3 of them come together and say we need to change. And what helps this movement actually is social media for the youngs. I want to mention, commend the one you mentioned to both Nick before this, where the youngsters, they use social media. You know that one interesting thing in Malaysia, that Instagram, Facebook and Twitter is no more social media during that time. It is an alternative media where people use it, people share. My cartoon example, been shared around people's.
Yeah, let's take a quick look at one of your cartoons, actually. We have one here which is symbolising the deal between Anwar Ibrahim and Mahathir Mohamad. They've made a deal, and caught in between their very tight handshake is a certain Najib. Explain that one for us, Zuna.
Yeah, the one I drew in September 2016, 2 years back, yeah, when their first, these two person, Mahathir and Anwar, first met after 20 years. After 20 years, there was their first meeting. Yeah, they met and they shook hands in the court. So I took that. I think this is very, very important when they shook hands. So, but again, when I draw cartoon, I will make sure that it is free copyright during that time for people to share, so people can understand what is happening in Malaysia.
Zuna, thank you for that. Now, Nick Nazmi, Zuna mentioned that the social media now, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, it's more than just alternative media. It is the only way the opposition, Anwar Ibrahim, Mahathir Mohamad, could get their message across, because the mainstream media, controlled by the government, gave them no airtime except to perhaps rub their reputations into the dust. That's about it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think we've been used to that. I mean, you know, the opposition has never had access to mainstream media for so long, and the growth of the internet and especially the social media over the past decade or so has been instrumental for the opposition. And I think we relied heavily on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter to reach our voters.
Well, let's turn to the third man now, Najib Razak. He was Prime Minister till just last week, but now he's out of office. He is in big trouble. The new leadership has banned him from leaving the country. They want to ask him about a few big scandals you may have heard of.
Now, when it comes to Najib's time in office, the allegations are plentiful. There are claims he tried to silence the press, accusations that he was behind the prosecution of political rival and opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim in 2014. But what are his biggest hits? Well, in at number 3. Settle in, this one is complicated. It's rumoured that he was involved in the murder of his closest advisor's former lover. Alton Tuyasharabu was kidnapped and murdered in 2006 by 2 men on the outskirts of Kuala Lumpur. The killers were a former police commando and a member of Prime Minister Najib Razak's elite security detail. Both men were found guilty. The former police commando, Sirul Azhar Umar, escaped in 2014 while out on bail, and he fled to Australia. After a brief period at large, he was found and arrested and has sat in an Australian detention centre ever since. The evidence suggested Sirul had contact with government officials and Malaysian intelligence, and Sirul admits he did have contact with people in high places, but he insists Najib was not involved. In at 2, the ransacking of 1MDB, Malaysia's sovereign wealth fund. Now, investigators estimate billions of dollars were taken from the fund, and some of the stolen money even went to finance American films like The Wolf of Wall Street.
This right here is the land of opportunity.
You just tried to bribe a federal officer.
This is America.
Fittingly, a movie about a corrupt Wall Street trader who cons investors out of their hard-earned cash. Now, a Malaysian task force found $700 million in the Prime Minister's bank account, but Najib waved that away, insisting it was simply a generous donation from Saudi royals and that he returned the money in 2013. And then, in at number 1, it's not the scandal, but the cover-up, or at least the alleged cover-up. After news broke of the missing funds, a full investigation was launched, but only once the Attorney General had been swapped for someone a little more friendly to Prime Minister Najib. And while the investigation cleared the Prime Minister, the saga isn't over. The new Prime Minister's put the Najib-friendly Attorney General on leave. The whole new investigation is now on the cards.
There are a lot of complaints against him, all of which have to be investigated.
Well, let's go to Nick Nazmi in Kuala Lumpur now. Nick, only this morning we had pictures from Najib Razak's house where we have the police raiding it after he came back from evening prayers, and it looks very much like they're closing in on Najib. Do you think the whole thing is going to catch up with him?
Well, I think so. I mean, I think you know, they are gathering evidence and documents, and I think it'll be a matter of days before he'll be charged.
You think he will be charged?
I believe he'll be charged. I mean, you know, there's no option, you know, if the evidence is sufficient, but for the government to, the authorities to charge him.
Zuna, you are outside Anwar Ibrahim's house, and once upon a time that was the hub for an investigation, and how things have turned around. The boot's on the other foot now. We have police outside of Najib's house, and everyone at Anwar's place, like including yourself, are smiling.
Yeah, I think it's now it's a trading places issues where it's you know, it has happened to Najib's now. I think, like, I agree with Nazmi. I think it's going to be arrest soon, if I'm not mistaken. And then also, it's happened like last time. The police used to raid Anwar house. The police used to raid my office. Now it's Najib's time. So this is how things change. But I would like to point one thing, one important thing here, that the one person who contributed to Najib's fall is his wife, Rosmah. Some people even call her Imelda Rosmah, like Imelda Marcos, because everybody knows she's the husband. Najib is the puppet of Rosmah. So what make important that many people in Malaysia, especially in rural area, they don't understand the issue of corruption and money trail of 1MDB, but they can understand how the wife, how Rosmah purchased a very expensive ring, a very expensive diamond. So this make them easy to compare. Oh, this is how corrupt they are. And at the same time, the people have to pay extra tax.
Nick, Anwar Ibrahim, do you think there's any chance that the Malaysians will get the money back as Mahathir Mohamad promised?
Well, definitely if the money is easily to be located, then it's an easy job for Tun Mahathir, I reckon.
Zuna, you know, you mentioned that once upon a time under Najib's reign, you were also being arrested and detained. We have one of the cartoons for which you were actually in a lot of trouble. It's the one with Anwar being sentenced and the gavel coming down, and it says political sentence on it. Just talk us through that cartoon. Why did it get you in trouble?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's cartoon because I criticize the whole process of judiciary and how the judiciary is under the instruction of the Prime Minister. It's all scripted. That is my strong statement from that cartoon. That's how, and the only reason why they want to put Anwar Ibrahim in jail is to kill his political career. And that is, I make it clear. So I was, after that, was arrested and put in the police lockup for a few days. And then after that, I was charged with 9 charges of Sedition Act, which is a record holder in Malaysia now.
Oh, and you were also put under a travel ban. Has a new change of government lifted that ban for you?
Yeah, I'm been in travel ban since June 2016, and last Monday, this Monday, I found out that I'm no more under travel ban. At the same time, Najib and Rosmah is on travel ban now. So I think it's a karma works very well.
Well, they say that, don't they? They say karma is a difficult thing to deal with. Let's go back to Nick Nazmi. Nazmi, Anwar Ibrahim has said when he was released, this is a new dawn for Malaysia. I mean, I can see how it's a new dawn for him and for perhaps for his friends and people like Zuna, but really from the outside world, well, you know, you've got the political establishment are still there. How does Anwar represent a new dawn for Malaysia?
Well, I think not just Anwar, but Pakatan Harapan as a whole. I mean, this is for the first time a different party is ruling Malaysia. And it's a new structure. There's no more one big party within the coalition, but basically an equal partnership. And I think this is something new. And I think what it hopefully heralds is that we have a two-coalition system in Malaysia where any party that performs will get voted in, and any party or coalition that doesn't perform will get booted out. And that's how democracy should work.
Absolutely. Well, on that hopeful note from Kuala Lumpur and from Nick Nazmi, we just want to say thank you all for your contributions to the Nexus. Nick Nazmi, thank you very much. And also Zunar, the political cartoonist, thank you. And Nick Amarul Faiz, thank you also. Well, that's it. That's all we have time for from the Nexus this week. Don't forget you can watch this and all our other episodes on our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. See you next week.